My wife mocked me as another child instead of a husband, in front of her CEO. 6 months later, my designs replaced her entire career. I'm a 34-year-old male who has been working in IT support for the past 8 years. It's nothing extraordinary, but it covers the expenses. I met my wife Clara, a 32-year-old woman in college, when I was on track for something better. According to my lecturers, I aspired to be an architect and possessed a natural design ability. But life happens, as you know. Clara was an ambitious marketing major who was always talking about moving up the corporate ladder. When we graduated, she got an entry-level work at BlackRock's K Market, a fashionable company with exposed brick walls and kombucha on tap, while I took a temporary IT job to support us while she built her career. Somehow, temporary became 8 years of my life. I'm not complaining, at least not back then. I assumed we were a team. She'd always assure me, once I make senior account manager, we can focus on your career goals. But that promotion came and went, as did the next, and my dreams were put back until maybe next year. I was making decent money, but it was little compared to what she was earning once she started rising up, and she never forgot it. Our apartment was filled with everything she selected. My gaming PC was banished to a small part of the spare bedroom she referred to as her home office, despite the fact that she rarely utilized it. When I attempted to hang some of my old college architectural sketches, she said they didn't fit our aesthetic and replaced them with generic abstract art from an exorbitant downtown store. So I'm standing there, fixing my tie for the 6th time in our bathroom mirror, preparing for Clara's annual office party. This wasn't just any party, it was the first since her promotion to Director of Client Relations. My stomach was knotted. These corporate experiences always made me feel like an imposter. "Oliver, are you seriously still getting ready?" she asked from the bedroom, with that slight edge in her voice that made me feel about 2 inches taller. "We can't be late. Richard Billings will be there, he's the CEO. Remember, I've told you like 1,000 times." "Almost done," I said, smoothing down my new suit, which I had spent $800 on just so she wouldn't give me that look she usually gave me when I wore my old one, "my husband is such a project" look she'd send to her friends when she thought I didn't notice. She kept guiding me like I was a child during the drive. "Remember to mention your project management certifications if anyone asks what you do. And please, try to be more assertive than last time. You just stood in the corner like a statue." Each suggestion felt like a tiny paper cut. Small but terrible. "And don't bring up that Star Wars crap you're always talking about. Nobody cares about your theories on whatever those wizard people are called." "Jedi," I amended instantly, but I quickly regretted it when I saw her roll her eyes. "Whatever, just try to seem interested in marketing for once." I just nodded and promised to make her proud as always, but something inside was already changing. I was so tired of being a supporting character in the Clara show. The event was held at a luxury downtown hotel, complete with glass and modern art, and the attendees appeared to have never eaten fast food before. I recognized a few individuals from past gatherings, but I largely felt like an outsider, as if I were wearing a costume for a play I had never auditioned for. Clara instantly noticed her colleagues and drew me along, her hand clutching my elbow so tightly that I thought it could bruise. "There's Kevin's group from marketing," she said quietly. "Let me do most of the talking. Just smile and nod." Things went well at first. I smiled when I was meant to, laughed at inside jokes that I didn't get, and kept her sparkling water glass full. Clara's claws dug deeper into my arm as her employer Thomas approached, accompanied by Richard Billings, CEO. "Your quarterly numbers were exceptional," Richard told Clara. "We need more of that killer instinct in the company. The way you handled the Miller account, brilliant." She was beaming as if someone had just given her $1 million. "Thank you, sir. I believe women need to push boundaries in this industry. We can't let the old boys club hold us back." She tossed in the feminist angle she usually used with her supervisors, even if at home she'd have me kill the spiders and take out the trash since those were man jobs. The talk then switched to a rock climbing excursion that the corporation had organized. Clara was one of several CEOs who took part. "Your wife was fearless on that cliff face," I heard Thomas say. "What about you? Do you share her adventurous spirit?" Clara gave out a phony laugh, as she often did when she wanted to impress someone. "Oliver? Oh God, he gets vertigo standing on a stepladder. I'm definitely the risk taker in our marriage. He's more of a support person." A few giggles echoed throughout the group, but I felt my face burn with humiliation. The CEO smiled cordially. "Nothing wrong with being cautious. Different strengths and all that." But Clara was not done. "It's beyond caution. she said, unaware to how uncomfortable I felt. Remember when we had that mouse in the apartment last month? She pantomimed, shivering, and everyone laughed even harder. He stood on the kitchen table screaming until I got home to deal with it. I took a large swallow of my sparkling water, wishing I could simply disappear. That is not even how it happened. I was frightened by the mouse and jumped, but her interpretation made me sound miserable. And when we go camping, she said, he won't sleep without an air mattress and insists on staying at sites with full bathroom facilities. Not exactly the rugged outdoorsman. She looked around at her coworkers. I swear sometimes it's like having another child instead of a husband. But he's so good with computers. She stroked my arm condescendingly. Richard's expression changed. His gaze went to me with what appeared to be sympathy. Thomas cleared his throat, clearly knowing that the conversation had gone too far. Actually, Thomas replied, I was talking with Oliver earlier about his architectural hobby. Those 3D designs he showed me were impressive. I had not disclosed my architectural hobby. I had no idea Thomas knew my name until that moment. But I realized he was attempting to save me, and I felt a strange connection to this guy I barely knew. Clara appeared confused. Architecture. He doesn't. Perhaps you could send me some of those renderings, Thomas said calmly, cutting her off. I've been thinking about redesigning my lake house. The subject shifted to vacation cottages, but the harm was done. I stood there, as if my soul had escaped my body. I was just an empty suit, nodding and smiling, but inside I was screaming. I'd spent the last 8 years of my life supporting this lady, and she couldn't even show me basic courtesy in front of her co-workers. For what? So she might appear more spectacular in comparison. The toughest part was that I knew she'd expect me to laugh about it afterwards. Oh, don't be too sensitive. I was just playing around. I excused myself to seek some fresh air, heading out to this large balcony where the cool night breeze did nothing to alleviate the burning embarrassment within me. I stood there, staring at the city lights below, and suddenly everything became obvious. The lady I married had just used me as a punchline to promote her personal image at work, and this wasn't the first time. Years of little comments and subtle put-downs had suddenly crystallized into this terrible pattern that I'd ignored. I wasn't just the target of tonight's jokes, I was also the designated loser in the story she had created about our relationship. Gets old, doesn't it? I turned to see Thomas standing in the doorway, holding 2 bottles of sparkling water. He extended one to me. Thought you might need this? I agreed with a nod, grateful for both the alcohol and his lack of sympathy. Thank you, and thanks for the imaginary architectural hobby. He leaned against the railing beside me. My ex-wife did the same thing at every company event, made me the punchline to all her stories. Dave can't cook to save his life. Dave got lost driving to his mother's house. Dave couldn't figure out how to use the washing machine. He sipped his water. After our divorce, I found out she'd been seeing her personal trainer for 6 months. Best thing that ever happened to me. We stood silently for a moment. Listen, he replied at last. I don't know you well, but I recognize self-respect walking out of a room. That takes more courage than impressing a bunch of corporate drones who will forget about this party by Monday morning. I didn't know how to answer, so I simply nodded. For what it's worth, he went on. I've been in this business 20 years. The people who last aren't the ones who build themselves up by tearing others down. That strategy always backfires eventually. The water was swirling. And between us, Clara's promotion isn't as solid as she thinks. Richard's been asking questions about that Miller account. I stared at him with amazement. What do you mean? Thomas shakes his head. Just that the numbers don't quite add up, nothing I can discuss in detail. He drifted off and changed the subject. So, did you really study architecture? I nodded. Yeah, back in college. Had to drop out my senior year when my dad got sick. Medical bills wiped out the college fund. I was going to go back, but then Clara's career took off, and it just never seemed like the right time. Thomas nodded attentively. Funny how we put our dreams on hold, thinking it's temporary, and then wake up one day to realize years have passed. Yeah, I replied, feeling a lump in my throat. Funny. The balcony door opened, and Clara appeared. She was visibly annoyed, but she tried to cover it with a phony smile. There you are. Everyone's wondering where you went. Her gaze shifted between me and Thomas, narrowing slightly. Is everything okay? Just getting some fresh air and having a fascinating conversation, Thomas said before I could respond. Oliver was telling me about his background in architectural design. Really innovative perspectives. Another imaginary interest, but this one seemed different. Less like a rescue, more like potential. "We should get back inside," she remarked to me, her grin barely reaching her eyes. "Richard's wife was asking about you." "Actually," I continued, finally finding my voice, "I think I'm going to head home." Her smile disappeared. "What? You can't leave now. We've only been here 2 hours." "I'm not feeling well." It wasn't completely false, my stomach had been churning since her performance inside. "Don't be ridiculous," she muttered, moving closer and lowering her voice. "This is important for my career, you can manage a few more hours. Stop being so sensitive." Thomas cleared his throat. "Perhaps I should give you two a moment," he replied, but did not move to leave. "No need," I said, putting down my water bottle. "I ordered an Uber, and it should arrive any minute." I hadn't, but I would as soon as I went downstairs. "This is so typical," Clara whispered, her voice sharp enough to break glass. "The one time I need you to be supportive, you're running away because your feelings got hurt. I swear, men are so fragile sometimes." Something inside of me moved, and a quiet assurance replaced the confusion and hurt. I straightened my shoulders, and gazed directly at Clara. "I've supported you through 3 promotions, 2 career changes, and countless late nights at the office. I've attended every function, remembered every colleague's name, and never once complained about being left alone at holidays when you had to work. I put my own dreams on hold for 8 years while you built your career." I took a breath. "But tonight you didn't ask for my support. You used me as a prop to make yourself look better." Her cheeks reddened. "You're overreacting. It was just harmless joking around." "Was it?" I inquired quietly. "Because from where I'm standing, it felt like you were telling everyone that your biggest accomplishment was succeeding, despite being married to such a pathetic loser." Her gaze faltered and fell to the floor, and I saw something I hadn't expected: uncertainty disguised as confidence, fear veiled as ambition. "I'm going home," I said gently this time. "We can talk tomorrow." As I turned to leave, Thomas extended a hand. "Good meeting you properly, Oliver. Hope you feel better soon." I shook his hand, shocked by the firm grip and the business card he effortlessly presented to me. "Call me if you'd like to grab coffee sometime," he said. "I mean it about those designs." When I returned, the apartment was quiet. I removed my suit, the expensive costume I'd worn to blend in with her world, and stood in the shower until the hot water ran cold, allowing it to wash away the humiliation of the evening. Sleep did not come easily. I lay there, remembering years of subtle slights. The way she'd stop me while I was talking about something I was interested in, the way she rolled her eyes when I suggested vacation plans, and the constant minor adjustments she wanted to make to my look, speech, and hobbies. For example, when I spent months building a custom gaming PC and finally got it running perfectly, she said, "That's nice, honey. Maybe now you can focus on something productive." Similarly, when I excitedly showed her a sketch I'd drawn of our dream house, she said, "It's cute that you still think about that stuff." Morning brought insight rather than reconciliation. Clara hadn't arrived home. I received a text message at 6 a.m., told me she'd stayed at Jen's house because she didn't want to continue the debate while emotional. Translation: she was avoiding the repercussions of her behavior. I called in ill to work, which I rarely did, and spent the day in a strange limbo between fury and possibility. I took out my old architectural sketches from college, which Clara had deemed not matching our aesthetic, and set them out on the dining table. They weren't too bad, especially the urban regeneration project, which had earned me departmental acclaim. By afternoon, I was staring at the business card Thomas had given me. After an hour of deliberation, I eventually texted, "This is Oliver from last night. I'll take you up on that coffee offer, if it still stands." His response was quick. "Good to hear from you. 3 p.m. at Steel Bean downtown." The coffee shop was expensive, but not pretentious. Thomas was already sitting in a corner booth when I arrived, dressed casually in trousers and a button-down. "Thanks for meeting me," I murmured, taking the seat across from him. "Though I should probably confess, I've never shown you any architectural designs." He laughed. "I figured as much. But I wasn't entirely making it up. Clara mentioned once that you studied architecture in college. Said it was cute that you thought you could make it in that field." That stung. I never said it was cute when she failed her first 2 marketing jobs. Yeah, well, it was more than cute to me, I answered, taking out my phone and showing him photographs of my old college projects before leaving the flat. I was on track for internships at some decent firms before life happened. Thomas raised his eyebrows as he browsed through the photographs. These are actually good. Really good. The spatial awareness, the integration with the surrounding environment. You had a genuine talent. The talk moved with unexpected ease. He wasn't simply being courteous or feeling sorry for me, he actually cared about who I was. As we talked, I found myself disclosing things I'd kept hidden. My abandoned passion for architectural design, the small company plan I'd shelved when Clara's career took precedence, and my growing sense of having lost myself in the shadow of her success. So all this time you've just been putting your dreams aside while supporting hers? Thomas was curious. I guess I thought that's what marriage was, I said. Compromise. Sacrifice. I figured my turn would come eventually. Compromise should go both ways, Thomas explained. When was the last time she sacrificed something for your dreams? I couldn't respond because the truth was that she never had. Why did you really ask me here? I finally said, after a second coffee. Corporate loyalty would suggest you should be taking her side. He pondered about this, tapping his fingers on the table. Corporate loyalty is overrated, human decency isn't. What I saw last night wasn't someone building up a team, it was someone stepping on another person to appear taller. He raised his eyebrows. Plus, I recognized something in you that reminded me of myself 15 years ago. Sometimes people need a nudge to remember who they are. Before we separated, he made an unexpected proposal. My team's working on a new downtown development project, mixed-use building with residential and commercial space. Given your background in architecture, would you be interested in reviewing some of the preliminary designs? Fresh eyes can spot things we've missed, and it might be therapeutic. I was stunned. I don't have any professional qualifications, my design experience is theoretical at best. Sometimes theoretical is exactly what we need. No pressure, just take a look and give me your honest thoughts. He slid a thumb drive across the table. Use a new email address to send feedback. This is under the radar. I don't need Clara knowing I'm consulting with her husband. That evening, after Clara returned with a well-scripted apology that included terms like work stress and don't mean to embarrass you, but never recognized what she'd done, I sat down at my long-neglected desk and plugged in the drive. The ideas were ambitious, combining modern and historical features to revive a neglected part of downtown. I lost myself for hours studying representations, taking notes, and sketching possibilities. For the first time in years, I felt my mind totally engaged, with neurons sparking with previously latent creative force. Clara entered our home office, hesitating uncertainly at the threshold, and I scarcely noticed. What are you working on so intently? She inquired, her tone perfectly neutral. I did not glance up. Just a project. She moved closer, attempting to see the screen. Work project? Since when does IT support need architectural renderings? I closed the laptop, sensing a strange new wall between us. It's personal. Her face showed confusion, then anxiety. Personal? What does that mean? Her gaze tightened. Are you talking to someone else? The connotation was obvious. In her opinion, the only personal project I could pursue would be an affair. She couldn't believe I had autonomous interests or aspirations. I'm looking into some possibilities, I said vaguely, loving the fact that for once, I was the one holding the information she sought. She hovered for another minute, obviously expecting me to elaborate, but I remained silent. Finally she retreated, and I understood something had fundamentally changed. The apartment seemed different. Not because she had returned, but because I had changed since leaving for the party 2 nights ago. I reopened my laptop and started writing an email to Thomas, signing it with my name followed by architectural consultant. The title was aspirational rather than factual, but for the first time in years, the difference between the two did not appear insurmountable. 2 weeks passed in an unusual new domestic rhythm. Clara walked on eggshells around me, overcompensating with forced cheerfulness and an unexpected interest in my day. I remained cordial but distant, spending my evenings concentrating on the development project rather than watching meaningless television with her. The email I wrote to Thomas sparked a flurry of responses, with the design team expressing real interest in my proposals. What started as a courtesy evaluation turned into serious conversation, with some of my suggestions incorporated into the amended plans. He texted me one morning that they were executing your courtyard plan. The team wishes to meet the mystery consultant. 1 p.m. tomorrow. I stared at the message, equally excited and afraid. This wasn't just a soothing distraction, it was becoming real. I'm not qualified for an actual meeting, I responded. His response was immediate. Neither were half the successful people I know when they began. 1 p.m., at the office, business casual. I will meet you in the lobby. That evening, I casually remarked to Clara that I had lunch plans downtown the next day. Oh? With whom? She attempted to seem intrigued, but I detected a keen edge of distrust. A potential client, I responded, not quite lying but without mentioning that her employer was my contact. A client for what? She inquired, putting down her fork. I looked up from my plate. I'm exploring some consulting opportunities in architectural design. Her fork paused halfway into her mouth. Since when are you interested in architecture and what kind of consulting? You don't have certifications. I've always been interested in architecture, I explained quietly. We talked about it when we first met. I showed you my sketches. That was a hobby, she remarked. You can't just suddenly decide to call yourself a consultant. Actually, you can, I quipped, especially when people value your input. I shut my laptop and stood up. I need to prepare for tomorrow. As I walked away, I could feel her staring at my back, attempting to understand this new version of her husband, one with interests and objectives other than supporting her profession. The next morning, I dressed in my best business casual outfit, not the suit she'd chosen for me, but clothes I felt good in. As I was about to go, Clara arrived in the doorway. Who exactly are you meeting with? She inquired, no longer concealing her suspicion. A development team is interested in my design perspective, I said, reaching for my portfolio, which I had spent the entire night putting together, complete with old college work and new ideas for the downtown project. This doesn't make any sense, she insisted. You work in IT. You've always worked in IT. I worked in IT to support us while you built your career, I corrected her. But that was never my passion. You knew that. As I walked towards the door, she yelled after me. Is this about the party? Are you trying to punish me? I halted with my hand on the doorknob. Not everything is about you, Clara. This is about me reclaiming something I lost. The corporate headquarters was intimidating, 60 stories of dazzling glass and steel. I straightened my blazer in the foyer, doubting my sanity for consenting to this appointment. What was I thinking when I pretended to be a professional in a world where I didn't fit in? Thomas arrived on time, greeting me with a solid handshake. Ready to impress some people? The meeting room included 5 persons, all dressed in that modest, expensive way that denoted serious achievement. My hands were clammy as I was introduced simply as the consultant who solved our courtyard challenge. Walk us through your thinking, a gray-haired woman asked, gesturing at the graphics shown on the wall. I took a big breath and began detailing the flaws I'd identified with the original design, such as shadowing at certain times of day, the wind tunnel effect caused by the building orientation, and the missed potential for green space that would have increased property prices and tenant happiness. As I spoke, my voice became more steady. I received queries, drew alternatives on the digital whiteboard, and got into a heated debate about the benefits of different materials. For 90 minutes, I forgot to feel intimidated. I forgot I was not formally qualified. I simply lost myself in the sheer pleasure of creative problem solving. After the meeting, the gray-haired woman approached me immediately, revealing herself to be the firm's senior partner. Your perspective is refreshing, she replied. Most consultants tell us what we want to hear, but you told us what we needed to know. She offered me her card. We have another project breaking ground in 3 months. Would you be interested in a more formal arrangement? I felt dizzy with possibilities. I would need to think about it, of course. But don't think too long, she said with a knowing smile. Talent doesn't need credentials to be valuable. Clara arrived home from work earlier than normal that evening, and I was going over the meeting notes. Something about her behavior appeared off, a peculiar combination of rage and anxiety that aroused instant concerns. How was your meeting? She said, her tone tense. Productive, I answered cautiously. Why? Imagine my surprise, she began, throwing her bag to the counter with a thud. When I was called into Richard's office today to explain why my husband is suddenly consulting on the downtown project with my supervisor. And there it was, the decisive moment. I didn't realize I needed your permission to pursue professional opportunities, I added softly. Don't play dumb, Oliver. You deliberately kept this from me. Do you have any idea how this makes me look? Like I can't keep my own husband in line. Keep me in line. The words struck me like a blow. Is that how you see our marriage? That I'm someone you need to keep in line? You know what I mean, she backed away. It just looks weird. People are talking about, what? That your husband might have talent and value outside of being your supportive spouse? That's not fair, she complained. I've always supported your interests. My interests, I reiterated. Not my career, not my ambitions. My cute little hobbies that you could pat me on the head for. She threw up her hands. What do you want from me? I said I was sorry about the party. I had too much sparkling wine. I was trying to impress Richard. I went too far. What more do you want? I want you to understand that this isn't about the party, I told you. The party just showed me clearly what I'd been ignoring. We built a relationship where your dreams were the priority, and mine were the sacrifice. I accepted that arrangement for so long that I almost forgot I had dreams of my own. She reached for my hand, but I took a step back, needing physical space to retain emotional clarity. What exactly are you doing with this project? She inquired, her voice lowering. Consulting on architectural elements of a downtown development, and they've asked me to consider a formal arrangement for future projects. Her eyes expanded. You're not qualified, you never finished your degree. Apparently talent and insight matter more than credentials to some people. Her tone changed, becoming accusing once more. And Thomas arranged all this? Why would he do that? I shrugged. Maybe he recognized something in me. Maybe he just wanted to help. Or maybe he saw how I was treated and decided I deserved better. She flinched, like if I had hit her. So this is about punishing me. Embarrassing me professionally as revenge. Not everything is about you, I explained quietly. This is about me rebuilding something I lost. It has nothing to do with revenge. Her rage reappeared. You've been lying to me for weeks while meeting with my employer. How am I supposed to interpret this? I did not lie. I simply did not provide information that you had not requested. When was the last time you asked about my day, interests and goals? Not what you needed from me or how I might help you, only who I am and what I desire. She opened her lips to answer, but closed it again, as awareness dawned in her eyes. The following few days were stressful. Clara oscillated between faux supportiveness and passive-aggressive comments about my unexpected job move, but something greater was forming. I could feel it in the way she furiously texted over dinner or took whispered phone conversations in the restroom. One morning, approximately a week after my meeting with the design team, I received an urgent text from Thomas. We need to chat immediately, not over the phone. We met at a quiet cafe far from Clara's workplace, and Thomas appeared depressed. Clara's trying to sabotage you, he blurted out. She's filed a formal complaint with HR, claiming I've engaged in inappropriate professional relationships by hiring her spouse without disclosure. My stomach plummeted. Can she do that? Technically, there is no rule against hiring employees' spouses for consultancy work. But she's framing it as a conflict of interest, implying that we only hired you to win favor with her over the Miller account. That's ridiculous, I responded, feeling betrayed yet again. She knows that's not true. Of course that's not true. But she is desperate. The Miller account numbers. The ones we've been questioning, Clara's been manipulating the data to make her results look better. There's something else you should know. He hesitated. Nothing illegal, but clearly against company policy. Richard had previously planned to audit her work next month, and now she is attempting to defame you before that happens. I took note. Make it look like I'm the one with professional ethics issues. Thomas nodded grimly. Exactly. What can I do? I asked. We need proof that your hiring was solely based on merit. Your original email criticizing our design, did you send it from a personal account that Clara does not have access to? I replied. I created a new account like you suggested. Good. And your design suggestions were made before you knew about the Miller account audit? I didn't even know about the Miller account issues until today, I told you. Thomas was relieved. That helps. But there's another issue. Clara claims you've been exploiting insider information she brought home to gain an advantage on the project. I felt terrible. She's the one who never discusses work at home, except to brag. I had no idea about this project until you showed me. I believe you. But we have to prove it. I thought for a moment. She keeps a personal journal. Every night she writes down all of her professional accomplishments and strategies. If she has been changing data, it might be in there. Thomas scowled. I can't ask you to invade your wife's privacy. It's my apartment too, I insisted. And if she's trying to destroy my one chance at rebuilding my career just to protect her lies, I think I have a right to defend myself. That night, while Clara was at her emergency yoga session, which I now thought was a strategy meeting with her allies at work, I discovered her journal concealed in her underwear drawer. When I opened it, I felt a tinge of guilt, but that quickly faded as I began to read. It was all there. Her deliberate manipulation of the Miller account data, her strategy to keep Oliver focused on my career by disparaging his architectural hobby, and most damning of all, entries from the previous week plotting to discredit Thomas before he could expose her lies. She wrote, Thomas thinks he's so clever using Oliver against me, but I'll make sure they both regret it. I took images of the pertinent pages, my hands shaking with rage and betrayal. This wasn't just about the party. It was about years of purposefully suppressing my dreams in order to retain me as her loyal sidekick. The next morning, I texted Thomas the images with a simple message. Do what you need to do. 2 days later, Clara returned home in tears, her face blotchy from fury and embarrassment. You bastard! She screamed as soon as she saw me. You looked through my private notebook. You handed Thomas my personal writings. Do you have any idea what you did? I stayed calm, saying, I know exactly what I did. I fought myself against your attempts to undermine my career, just as you have done for years. They have suspended me, she screamed. Pending a thorough review of the Miller account. My reputation is ruined. What is your reputation? I laughed bitterly. You mean the reputation you earned by lying about your accomplishments and treading on others? What about that reputation? She dropped onto the sofa, abruptly shifting tactics, and tears streamed down her cheeks as she stared up at me with those deceptive eyes I used to find appealing. Oliver, please, she cried. You must assist me. Tell them you misunderstood. Tell them I never intended to harm your career. You realize how essential this work is to me. To us? I corrected. It was always essential to you. And you were determined to sacrifice my one hope of returning my passion to defend your falsehoods. I can solve this, she said. And I will tell everyone how proud I am of your architectural work. I will fully support your job change. We can get past this. I sat opposite from her, immediately filled with pity. Clara, do you even hear yourself? Even now, you are only offering to help me because you need something. That is not how partnerships work. What are you saying? She muttered, her eyes filled with dread rather than manipulation. I'm saying I'm finished being your supporting character. I have accepted a formal consulting role with the downtown development. I start next week. What about us? She inquired, her voice small. There is no we anymore, I replied gently, and I have already packed my things. I'm staying with a friend until I can find my own place. You cannot just leave, she cried, desperate. We can work this out. I will go to treatment. I will do whatever it takes. I shook my head. I've spent 8 years hoping you'd see me as an equal partner with my own goals. You had to face the repercussions of your conduct before you could provide that. And only because you needed my support. That is not love, Clara. That is just self-preservation. Her expression stiffened, the veneer of vulnerability falling away. Fine, leave. But don't think it's over. I still have friends at the company. They'll see through the lies Thomas told them. They're not lies if they're backed up by evidence, I reminded her. In your own handwriting. She jumped up, her eyes burning. Do you think this makes you some kind of man? Sneaking around behind my back, rummaging through my personal items. You are nothing without me. Nothing. Who do you think paid for most of this apartment? Who kept us afloat when your pathetic IT job had layoffs 3 years ago? I picked up my duffel bag, strangely cool in the face of her fury. I guess we'll find out who I am without you. That's what scares you the most, isn't it? The idea that I might actually succeed on my own. As I approached the door, she called after me, her voice suddenly smaller. Oliver, please, I love you. I hesitated, feeling an odd combination of sadness and freedom. I think you love the idea of me, the supportive husband who never challenges your spotlight. But that person doesn't exist anymore. The door closed behind me with a quiet click that felt more definitive than any slam could have. It's been 6 months since I left that flat and my former life. The downtown project is almost finished, with my courtyard design becoming one of the development's distinctive features. I've been engaged as a full consultant for 2 additional projects, and I'm taking night classes to finish my architectural degree. I wish I could say the change went smoothly, but Clara did not go down without a fight. She tried to turn mutual friends against me by telling them about how I abandoned her over a little job issue. She even stopped by my new flat once, oscillating between tears and threats. But the strangest part occurred 3 months after our split, when the company's inquiry was completed. Clara was dismissed for data manipulation, and on her way out, she appeared to have a total meltdown in the foyer. According to Thomas, who observed the entire incident, she yelled that everyone would be sorry if she disclosed the truth about the conspiracy against her. 2 days later, I got this desperate email from her. "Oliver, I need your help. They have ruined my credibility in the industry. Nobody will hire me. I realize I made faults, but I did not deserve this. You understand how hard I worked. Please inform Thomas that I've learned my lesson. Tell them that I deserve a second opportunity. Without my career, I have nothing. Please." I did not respond. After 8 years of putting her needs first, I was finally able to focus on my own journey. A common friend informed me last week that Clara had to return to her parents' home in Ohio. Her LinkedIn profile now displays her as a marketing consultant, which typically indicates that she is unemployed. Meanwhile, the senior partner at Thomas's firm has volunteered to sponsor me for an accelerated architecture program that will allow me to complete my qualifications in a year. I sometimes feel guilty about how things ended. I never wanted vengeance. All I wanted was respect and the opportunity to follow my own aspirations. But then I remember all those years of subtle insults, the humiliation at the party, and her readiness to ruin my potential in order to preserve herself. The guilt disappears rapidly after that. The greatest vengeance wasn't exposing her falsehoods or watching her career crumble. It was about recovering my own potential, a part of myself that I had almost forgotten existed. And, no matter what happens in my new work, I will never make myself little in order to make someone else feel big. If you're listening to this and see yourself in my story, if you've been putting your goals on hold to support someone who doesn't reciprocate, remember that it's never too late to rediscover who you were intended to be. Sometimes the hardest thing isn't fighting against how others perceive you. It's about resisting the limited version of yourself that you've come to accept.